I made a thread about it. It's from what I've been seeing, it's going to be damn near impossible for Russia to actually get it done unless they are able to not only communicate with their forces, coordinate fires with a movement maneuver, and also ensure lines of communication for fuel, for food, for ammunition. Because hey, they can use their MLRSs as much as they want, or advance as much as they want to try and circle Kiev. But the issue is going to be if they're not able to actually keep those forward elements supplied. And then those elements would be essentially immediately vulnerable to a counterattack.
All right. And Walter, the last question from me, I guess, and then you can rotate me to the experts regarding these mysterious Syrian troops, right? Are they any good? Because I'm kind of hearing, polar thoughts on that. Some part of people saying that they're just useless in cold weather, not knowing Russian language and stuff. But the others say that they can be useful in this street fights and stuff. So what's your opinion on that? Thank you all. Slava Ukraini.
Героям слава. Intel Hub.
So I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think one of the major considerations for it is the amount that they actually send over, if they do in fact send them. It also depends on the quality that they're sending from Syria, and I think their primary use would be for securing rear locations behind Russia's forward line of troops, as well as trying.
Hello, everybody. It is the American Dufus channel, and this is News Done Differently. I'm your host, Barry Welsh. Thank you for watching. We've been listening to a briefing. I've been on that briefing since noon, actually. So for about the past 2.5 hours, a lot of information coming out of there. A lot of the people talking were speaking Polish. Some were speaking Ukrainian. So tough for me to digest what they were saying, but nonetheless, some incredibly heart-wrenching and horrific things coming out from Ukraine. So let's get busy with the news. This was one of the people that was talking, and I'm going to make sure her name's not shown. She is in Epron, and we have had information from her before, information about how the Russians are targeting vehicles, especially vehicles. Let me see if I can expand this out to where you can see the not really the signs on the vehicles say children, and I've got grandkids. You've got grandkids. Maybe you've got kids. I don't know. Despicable is not a strong enough word, in my opinion. And the more we learn about what Russia is actually doing, the more we need to really pay attention to pro-Russian people here in our own country. Putin has welcomed the recruitment of 16,000 military volunteers, mostly from the Middle East, to support Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We just heard one of the so-called experts from Washington, D.C. say that these will be primarily back of the line, supporting the rear. No. That's why I like to listen to people that are actually on the ground and can tell us what is really happening. 16,000 is a mass amount of people. We've been playing some intercepted calls from because Russia's basically not using secure communications for the most part. And one of the intercepted calls, troops near Kharkiv were ordered to shoot at civilians, including children, quote, kill all, no matter who they are, civilians, children, or no children, kill them all. Russia threatens to destroy NATO humanitarian convoy, which is moving towards Ukraine. This is from 12 minutes ago. This is a humanitarian convoy, not a military armed convoy. A military armed convoy would indeed be a justifiable target under the rules of war, but a humanitarian convoy is not. There are also claims that Russia is now using phosphorus weapons, and it certainly appears that way from this picture. More coming on that. Also, this afternoon, we're going to be watching North Korea, as is the United States military. This came out 40 minutes ago that they're expecting another ballistic missile launch test of their satellite system. That's what North Korea calls it. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well coming up. As I said, there is an arms convoy as well. Russia will treat Western arms shipment to Ukraine as legitimate military targets. We warned the U.S. of consequences from the insane transfer to Ukraine of weapons like mobile anti-aircraft systems, anti-tank missiles, and so on. You notice it says we warned the U.S. Again, from the start, I've been saying that this is really not about Ukraine. And while Ukraine is not the goal, the end all be all, the people of Ukraine, the heroism, the suffering, the fortitude, the loss, the most incredibly positive things and the most incredibly negative things all together in one place. Ukraine. Slava Ukraine. Tonight is the this is one of our people at the front. Tonight is the night of real heavy guns. This is 49 minutes ago in West Kiev. I think the world's heaviest towed artillery pieces are having a duel right now. Hopefully we will have time to write this down in history. So under fierce attack, even as we speak, Ukrainian President Zelensky today, you are asking me how the situation is on the front line. There's a front line everywhere. A few small towns just don't exist anymore. And this is a tragedy. They're just gone. The people are also gone. They're gone forever. So we are all on the front line. Ukrainian diplomat condemns Fox News and Tucker Carlson in rare interview with Midas Touch from his undisclosed location inside Ukraine.
In the United States, we have a network called Fox News.
Okay. Something worth considering here. Now, remember, not all people that work at Fox are Tucker Carlson, but Tucker Carlson is the face of Fox.
In the United States, we have a network called Fox News. News in parentheses here. So they've been broadcasting Russian talking points, lies, and disinformation. What would you say to them and the companies that allow them to broadcast their messages?
Oh God, shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you, Tucker Carlson. I mean, when you say, why should we support Ukraine and not Russia, what's wrong with your moral compass? What's wrong with your soul? I mean, how dead is your soul when you say things like that? When Ukrainian pregnant women get bombarded, when Ukrainian children are rescued from this rubble that used to be their homes. I mean, you ask why Ukraine should be supported. I mean, there is something seriously wrong with this guy, and there is something really seriously wrong with Fox News if they give him the air.
We have freedom of speech here in America, and Tucker Carlson is free to say whatever he wants, and we are free to say whatever we want in response to him. And I'm going to say something now. I'm going to say something that everybody should think about. There are a lot of Ukrainian people living in the United States. A lot of Ukrainian people living in the United States. A lot of them want to do something and can't do something. Now, I'm not suggesting this happens. I'm just saying that right now, there are two kind of people that are really pissed off with Tucker Carlson. There are people that understand he is a gas bag and has been for a long time, and he's really showing it. And some of those people are former Trump people, not high-ranking Trump people, but the base, some of the base is starting to go, wait a minute, them sons of bitches lied to us. They made us believe that we were patriots when in fact we were attacking America. Some of them are figuring it out. And Tucker Carlson is one of the biggest. They're not going to be able to get to Trump. They're not going to be able to get to Marjorie Taylor Greene or the North Carolina blowhard congressman. I don't even know his name. I don't even care. They're not going to be able to get to any of those people. They can get to Tucker Carlson. They can. There's some pissed off former Trump person right now sharpening a knife or loading shells into a 45 or 9mm cartridge saying, oh, I am pissed. Oh, I am pissed. So people like Tucker Carlson, man, if you want to keep pushing your stick because you think, it's funny, okay. But dude, you're fucking un-American. You're un-American, Tucker Carlson. You got the right, you got the freedom to say whatever you want, whenever you want. But dude, some of the stuff you're saying may have consequences. I hope you see this, man. It's not too late. It's not too late. Somebody's just like somebody's targeting me right now for saying this because they are Trump, Putin, QAnon, diehard. Where one go, all go. Well, where one go, all go might be prison. Why do I say that? Let's go on. This is Kharkiv after the bombing. City of 12 miles from the Russian border. And this is what it is now. Is this what you support? Probably some of you. This came in an hour ago. Franklin County, Ohio jury declined to indict the police officer who fatally shot Ma'Khia Bryant. We did, actually, the day she was shot, we had the footage of the police officer jumping out. 10 seconds after he jumped out, she was dead. The grand jury in Ohio declined to indict the officer who fatally shot her. This is very disconcerting for me. It came in 2 hours ago. Department of Homeland Security has uncovered significant gaps in its ability to detect potential domestic violent extremist threats within its ranks, within its own ranks. Let me repeat that. The Department of Homeland Security has uncovered, quote, significant gaps, end quote, in its ability to detect potential domestic violent extremist threats within its own ranks, citing unresolved issues of funding, training, and consistency, according to a report released yesterday. So we know there are violent extremists within the Department of Homeland Security. They're basically telling us that we can't figure out who they really are. That makes me wonder about U.S. intelligence. It makes me wonder about the Department of Homeland Security. I would think they would know who they are. The thing is, a violent extremist will be violent and he will be extreme, but for which side? In captivity, fighter of the Russian private military Wagner right here, his combat experience, successful operations in Syria and Donbass in 2014 and 2015. So he was there to help the illegal occupation of Russian forces into sovereign Ukraine territory. Russian missile strikes Dnipro once again, and also Kryptovenska in central Ukraine. Russia's expanding its military strikes to areas that had previously been relatively or even completely quiet. We said this was going to happen 2 days ago. It's all part of a strategy to make sure there's no safe haven anywhere in the country. Okay. There are, watch for new drones. Look for new drones in the Ukrainian forces. This is not public, but Ukrainian forces have two new types of drones. We saw one yesterday, and this one yesterday was modified by Ukrainian citizens to drop Molotov cocktails. Ingenious, and necessity being the mother of invention. I got word that, and I was not supposed to give any sources on this. So unnamed sources have said, watch for Ukraine Army to have two new types of drones. They're called Switchblade drones, Switchblade 300 and a Switchblade 600. The Switchblade 300 can actually carry like a claymore mine and drop it on top of a tank. The Switchblade 600 can actually carry javelin missiles and use those to attack tanks or armored personnel carriers. So watch for that in the coming week. A new type of drone being unveiled, and also watch for other drone activities. A lot of military experts are learning that manned aircraft fighting may be a thing of the Cold War and not necessarily something moving forward. Putin is stating clearly that he is not in war against Ukraine, which I've said all along. This is from Anders Allen. Putin is stating clearly he's not in war against Ukraine, but against the West, the US, Europe, and NATO. It is a delusion to think that the West can stay out of Putin's war. The West should instead think of how and when to fight Putin. And those that have been watching from the start here, started watching about 20 minutes ago, you know that we were listening to a briefing. One of the speakers at the briefing was a former Russian who's living in the United States now, and he went back to Russia. He was back in Russia 3 weeks ago, and he was attending a briefing on behalf of the company he works with in the United States now. And he said the under defense minister of Russia was asked about, the rumors of going into Ukraine, and he said, we'll go into Ukraine and we won't be stopped. And Ukraine is not our last target, just our first. And he was asked if, aren't you concerned about leading to nuclear war? And he said, no. And the person that asked him said, is it because that those missiles would be shot out of the sky in space by counter missiles? And he said, no, we're relatively certain they would. Our missiles will never leave their places in the ground. We will blow them up where they sit. We will not launch intercontinental ballistic missiles. We will blow them up in their launch pads. And the guy said, well, that would destroy Russia. And the guy said, no, that will destroy the world. That's who some people support. That's what some people are supporting. They probably don't know it. They just think, well, I've always been for Trump. I've always, if Trump's Russian, then I got to be Russian. And that's dangerous. But it is your right as an American, as it is our right to know who you are. Adam Kinzinger, Republican congressman, former lieutenant colonel. I want to be honest. In Congress, I have only had a few votes that in hindsight I regret. My biggest regret was voting against the first impeachment of Donald Trump. A lot of Republicans are feeling this way. No, they're not going to tell you, because Republicans aren't real big on, hey, I was wrong. Man, this guy's got class, in my opinion, even if it's a little tiny bit. He's the first one that has come out and said, hey, this was wrong. In my opinion, we reported on this yesterday. Pence was in Ukraine on Thursday. I haven't heard anybody else saying anything about it. If they are, good, but it'll come out. Pence was in Ukraine Thursday, separating himself from Trump, distancing. He's not going to come out any more harsh than what he has, because he's trying to protect a political future. Remember, his speeches started out with, I'm a Christian, a conservative, and a Republican, in that order. So that means American is somewhere down below other things other than, and there's nothing wrong with being a Christian. There's nothing wrong with being conservative. I'm conservative about certain issues. Okay. And there's nothing wrong with people being Republicans. But American, it doesn't make your top three. Something to think about. I said that the whole time I was running against him, and I'm still saying it now, but at least he is not goose stepping with Trump's. This is another incident where Tucker Carlson literally plays on Russian media. They show him. They just show him talk with closed captioning underneath, translated into Russian. And they treat him like, if you listen to this, you would hear, they treat him like he is one of their co-hosts. And we know the Russian media that's still on can only say Vladimir Putin's directed text. A little something from the U.S. side. U.S. Army 1st ABCT, the 3rd Infantry, they're manning pre-positioned stocks and vehicles and equipment at Grafenwort in Germany. And that was taken yesterday. The FBI has obtained, now this is why I said maybe the QAnon people, the diehard Trump people, where one goes, all goes, it might be prison. And some of you are laughing at that, and that's cool. Some, because it's taken a year before the January 6th people to start going to prison, but they're starting. The wheels of justice in America run slow. Okay. Anybody that's ever been in a court case knows that you don't get swift justice. You may get a swift hearing, but the hearing is only the first step in criminal proceedings. The FBI has obtained wiretaps of a Putin ally tied to the National Rifle Association who met with Trump Jr. When the Spanish prosecutor was asked whether he was concerned about the NRA members' interactions with Trump Jr., he replied, "Mr. Trump's son is the one who should be concerned." The FBI currently has all that information. We'll see how all that plays out. For those of you that are my age, and or those of you that might even remember who Ronald Reagan was, my age, you could be a student of history or culture or politics. I'm just going to leave this here for a moment and give the Republicans watching this something to think about. The guy you see, for those that don't know, his name is Ronald Reagan, and he was president of the United States. And he stood up to the Russian bullies and said, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall," in Western Berlin, and he became a hero of democracy and freedom. Your party's been stolen, in case you don't know. Hey, Republicans, your party was stolen by Putin positive propaganda that was spewed from Trump all the way down. And some of the people are still in play. Just something to think about with midterm elections coming up. Not that Democrats are going to have any good candidates, but nonetheless, we're going to have to choose the worst of two evils in all situations. This was well done. The Russian embassy in Lisbon, Portugal, the two houses that are on opposite corners of the embassy, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, are projecting blue and yellow onto the front of the Russian embassy, portraying the Ukrainian flag. And the ambassador is reportedly apoplectic. That's roughly translated, he's putting lighter fluid on his head, getting ready to set it on fire. Russia has said it will ban grain and sugar exports, even to most trusted neighbors, until the end of August. That move has triggered immediate price rises in Central Asia. So areas that thought, well, we're not going to be impacted by all of this, you are. The new Iron Curtain has come down on terrorist Russia. This has and will cause massive shock to the population as Putin takes the country back to 1917. Again, this is from yesterday. Russian police escorting off someone that will not toe the line. It could very easily happen here in America if we let the wrong people in power. And those of you that think I'm fear-mongering, you're on the wrong channel, because those watching know that it hasn't been that long that women had the right to vote. Women had the right to get a credit card. We're talking the 70s and 80s, 1970s and 80s, not 1870s and 80s, 1970s and 80s. Go back and do a little digging, those of you that didn't pay attention in history class. A lot of things could change if the wrong people get in power. Just a reminder, oil and gas companies do not want to drill more. The reason gas prices are high, they are under pressure from the financial community to pay more dividends, to do more share buybacks instead of the proverbial drill, baby, drill, which is the way they would have done things 10 years ago. But now they're controlled. And this was really troubling, I don't know, 4 or 5 days ago now. It got to the end of an episode and it suddenly dawned on me, oh my God, all these women and children at this border are targets. And I started talking about it. And we've got people that are friends of the show that their main focus is stopping this kind of thing. So made sure that they were aware. BBC World, this is British broadcasting company. Traffickers targeting parentless children on Ukraine-Poland border, says evacuating orphanages in the war zone. So the predators are there, and there are groups there trying to make sure that they are unsuccessful. But again, just another aspect of war that those of you that want to take America to war, keep these things in mind. Now, this is the best map I've been able to find as far as what really is going on. You see maps on the mainstream media TV networks, and they all make it look like, Kiev is complete, all but surrounded, and troops are, well, here's the real truth, okay? These are the Russian incursions and Russian stronghold areas. The blue is Crimea and the Donbass, where Russian separatists have gained control, and Russia has annexed these territories. Russia has also said that the nuclear plant in Zaporizhia is now a Russian part of the Russian utilities, and actually under control of the Russian Atomic Energy Commission, their version of it. Now, this came in yesterday. Again, I got to get rid of the sound because of potential copyright violations. 2 days ago, we were right up in here. And I say we because we showed footage of this tree line of the Ukrainian troops along this tree line and along this fence line, preparing for an attack. This is what that attack looked like from the air. Now you see troops. Before in footage, the troops would not get out of the armored vehicles when they came under attack, and a lot of people were speculating that, well, these guys weren't well trained. They are now. You can see them running, dispersing, and you'll notice. I think it's this tank here. Almost hits one of their guys. So again, we saw that. We watched we were kind of embedded through social media with the soldiers going through those tree lines, and that was the aerial view of the attack they carried out. Members of the Western Military Contracting Company. We talk a lot about Wagner, the Russian private army. Western Military Contracting Company Forward Observation Group was shown in Ukraine alongside Ukrainian forces. You can see Ukrainian force tag here and identified by their badges here as Western Military Contracting Company Forward Observation Group. We'll have a little more on them coming up in upcoming episodes, but they are indeed and you can tell the weapons are specialized weapons, but they are indeed engaged in helping to secure Kyiv. As we know, the one of if not the greatest snipers in the world, Wally from Canada, is in Kyiv as well. So I talked to somebody. I didn't talk to him. We exchanged direct messages earlier, and I asked, I said, I'm going to say that, Kyiv is not under danger of falling at the moment. He says, I don't think Kyiv's under the danger of falling at any time because the defenses we have, they won't be able to take over unless they do something unconventional. The Russians they're not reclaiming their dead from the battlefield. We saw yesterday a group of Russian troops burying people along the side of the road. We've been talking about the mobile crematoriums. Well, here we go. The bodies are not even taken to a refrigerator, but to an ordinary room, a 5x5. They're stored there for a while. They rot, they stink. Their bodies are taken away somewhere. The soldiers themselves do this. Everything is guarded, and only the head of the department has access. According to the BBC source, no one knows how many dead bodies there are, but everyone is horrified by what's happening. Doctors think that somewhere there is a mobile crematorium, or they just bury them somewhere. We know there are mobile crematoriums. We showed them before the attacks even began, before Putin declared anything. The mayor of Melitopol, Ivan Fedorov, was kidnapped. This is him being taken out by Russian forces. This is him up at the top. You don't get a real good look at it. He was taken out with a plastic bag over his head. He's been tortured. The concept is they want to take over these cities and put in puppet governments and their strategy has changed, according to some insiders. If they cannot win, if Russia cannot win, and if they call for a ceasefire, the ceasefire will basically be wherever Russia is right now becomes Russian territory. So just keep that in mind. Here we go. This is what I was talking about earlier. The acting head of the Ukrainian nuclear power facility, his last name's Kotin, said that staff had been gathered at the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and informed that the plant was now owned by Rostom, which is the Russian equivalent. So India says it accidentally fired missiles into Pakistan officially yesterday. We had that 2 days ago that happened. And there are people that are really wanting an investigation. This kind of thing, accidentally firing a ballistic missile into your neighbor, these are the kind of things that can have unintended consequences, such as World War III. Get a little something from the BBC here. This, you may have seen this on mainstream media. I talked about it. I saw it so much on mainstream media, I didn't put it on the show, but there are people that don't watch anything but this. I thank you all deeply. So
be readying for action. But further east, a separate Russian advance didn't get a warm welcome.
Okay, this is what I was talking about it the other day. The tanks are on the street, lined up basically nose to butt, if you will. The front of the vehicle in front, the other vehicle is lined up right on its butt, and the vehicle's nose is lined up on the vehicle in front of it. So
welcome under attack from the Ukrainian military. It's Ukraine's resistance, even in heavily besieged cities like Mariupol, that many fear will lead to Russia resorting to chemical weapons to win.
People can hide amongst the rubble. Ukrainian military can hide there, jump out with their anti-tank weapons and kill the vulnerable tanks. But if you use chemical weapons, that's not stopped by concrete walls and stuff. It seeps underground and kills people underground.
More people leave their homes as fears of even nastier attacks grow. Russia accuses America of biological activities in Ukraine. Unproven claims they will air at the UN Security Council on Friday. America says the claims are laughable.
And the United Nations agreed. Basically, no charges. Let's take a listen to the foreign minister of Russia.
We do not plan to attack other countries, and we did not attack Ukraine.
Lavrov making that claim, I mean, you know, in front of all the cameras and in front of all the world. Again, Russia launched an invasion in the early hours of a morning with missile attacks across the entire nation of Ukraine, and has since bombarded it with artillery, bombed hospitals, schools, the country completely under attack by Russia. Out front now, Vladimir Kara-Murza, a Russian opposition politician who has survived 2 poison attempts on his life in 2015 and 2017. He traveled from Moscow to Washington, where he met today with members of Congress about Ukraine. And Vladimir, I appreciate your time. So you hear Sergei Lavrov literally say, we do not plan to attack other countries, and we did not attack Ukraine. It is, even for Putin's inner circle, even for his foreign minister, an incredibly brazen lie. What does it suggest to you that he says that?
Well, we have George Orwell's 1984 come to life in Vladimir Putin's Russia. Remember, war is peace, freedom is slavery, ignorance and strength. This is what we are living in our country today and have been for a long, long time. And the astonishing fact is that
ignorance is strength. Remember that. When you see people trying to undermine the educational system in the United States, as has been going on for 2 decades, they want ignorant people. They want ignorant people. They don't want people thinking.
Most Russians do not even know that the Putin regime has launched this criminal military aggression against Ukraine, because if you watch Russian state television, you're presented with this alternative reality, this made-up world where it is actually the West and some imaginary Ukrainian neo-Nazis, as they call them, who are to blame for all of this, and there is in fact no large-scale war.
To be clear, there are neo-Nazis in Ukraine, okay? It doesn't mean Ukraine is a neo-Nazi country, all right? There are neo-Nazis in America. It doesn't mean that America is a neo-Nazi country. So within the lie, there is a kernel of truth always, all right? Yes, there are the Azov brigade is made up of a lot of neo-Nazis. And while Nazis were fascists, fascists don't have to be Nazis, okay?
War, there's a so-called
both are bad, by the way,
that does not in any way harm civilians. Well, I think your viewers can decide for themselves after watching those horrendous images you've just been showing them. And actually, just a week ago, the Russian so-called parliament, the rubber-stamp legislature, unanimously passed a new law criminalizing not just opposition to the war in Russia, but even saying that there is a war. You can now get up to 15 years in prison if you say that what Putin's military force.
Keep that in mind, all right? Not only will you go to prison if you criticize the fact there's a war, but even if you acknowledge there's a war.
Are doing is an aggressive war. Just today, a Russian Orthodox priest in the Kostroma region was fined and under this administrative offense introduced a week ago for speaking out against murders, for speaking out against the war in his sermon. This is the Orwellian reality that we are living with in Russia today.
For those that don't know, Orwellian reality comes from George Orwell, author George Orwell. And basically it was, as he was saying, what's wrong is right, what right is wrong. Freedom is slavery. Slavery is freedom. Ignorance is strength. You don't need any education.
Many believe Russia's invasion has exposed the shortcomings of one of the largest militaries in the world. For more, David Stone joins me now. He is a William E. Odom Professor of Russian Studies at U.S. Naval War College.
The reason I'm playing this guy is he's from the U.S. Naval War College, okay? We don't get to hear from people like this all the time.
Professor, it's good to have you with us. Before we get into the specifics, tell us a little bit about the history between Russia and Ukraine and why there is this problem now.
So Ukraine and Russia have been tied together for centuries. Ukraine was part of the Russian Empire. It was part of the Soviet Union. And I think that heritage helps to explain the fundamental fact that, in my view, and again, speaking just for myself, not for the U.S. government, that Vladimir Putin has real trouble recognizing Ukraine as a sovereign state. Putin's approach to international politics seems to be that he wants his neighbors, particularly neighbors that had been part of the Soviet Union, to be subservient, to not determine their own destiny. And I think that's the fundamental fact that explains what he's trying to do in Ukraine.
Also, remind us, Professor Stone, about Russia's annexation of Crimea. Tell us how the international community responded to that and how that might have played into what we're seeing now.
So back in 2014, as a result of a political crisis inside Ukraine, Vladimir Putin seized initially Crimea and then shortly afterwards gave Russian military assistance to breakaway regions in the Donbass. And so the Western response to that was fundamentally economic. There were a number of sanctions imposed on Russia, nowhere near as heavy as those that we're seeing right now. Sanctions on individuals within the Russian government, but no military response. Military aid to Ukraine, but certainly not any Western military presence in Ukraine. And subsequently, of course, there's been a debate. Was enough done? Should more have been done? But again, the sanctions were there, and they certainly did damage to the Russian economy, but not so much that it dissuaded Vladimir Putin from trying again in 2022.
So if you'd like, look up CBS News, catch the rest of that interview. It's about 6 minutes long, and it is worth listening to.
On television is increasingly inscrutable. Part of that is strategic. He is trying to make it very difficult for his opponents, whether within Russia or outside of Russia, to guess his intentions or mobilize against him.
Что ответ России будет незамедлительным и приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда.
Okay. I want you to really pay attention to Putin's words here. That's why we're doing this clip.
His intentions or mobilize against him.
Что ответ России будет незамедлительным и приведет вас к таким последствиям, с которыми вы в своей истории еще никогда не сталкивались.
A lot of people obviously are asking, has Putin changed? Is something going on in his understanding of the world or his ability to understand the world? The reality is we've been watching Putin now for plus years as he's been in power, and he's changed quite a bit. It does feel like we're seeing a Putin who's more isolated, and it's not just about sitting at the other end of a very long table from the people who are supposed to be advising him. It does feel that a lot of the that maybe he needs to hear are not coming across, either because people are unwilling to express them, or because 20 years into his reign, he trusts his own judgment more than he trusts the judgment of those around.
Говорите прямо. Я поддержу предложение о признании. Поддержу или поддерживаю. Говорите прямо, садитесь. Хорошо, садитесь, Владимир Александрович.
On in his presidency, Putin had these sort of marathon calls. This was always a way of him both showing that he's very much in command, that he has a strong understanding of what's going on in the country, but also to play all sides of the political equation. He was very much trying to keep everybody on board. Putin famously was the first world leader to call George W. Bush on September 11th to condolences, but also to offer support.
I looked the man in the eye. I found him to be very straightforward and trustworthy. I was able to get a sense of his soul.
He gave up on that essentially beginning in 2012, 2013, to face a much more concerted opposition at home, and he found that in order to mobilize against that opposition, it was useful to pick up on conservative values, on the Russian Orthodox Church, pushing against LGBT rights. A key moment, Putin is coming back, campaigning for re-election. election as president and gives his one major campaign speech. He takes the stage at Moscow's main football stadium. And as the snow is falling, gives this speech about, again, how this isn't just a campaign for political office, this is a campaign for the salvation of Russia.
Мы с вами народ, это у нас в генах, в нашем генном коде. Это передается у нас из поколения в поколение. Мы и сейчас победим. И я вас хочу спросить, мы победим?
Thus, his opponents aren't just Russian citizens who imagine a different political future for Russia, but they are agents of the West. You have his 2014 speech around the annexation.
For those that think Trump's a brilliant politician, he's not. Somebody just basically said, okay, here's what Putin has done and how he got into power and how he's in power for life. You just need to do these things and people will be stupid enough to follow you. Trump's no political freaking genius. He's a con man, and he conned a whole bunch of people. And some of them are waking up. Not enough, not fast enough, but some are.
Of Crimea, which is harking back again to centuries of Russian history to legitimize this seizure of territory from a sovereign country, creating, in fact, a lot of political euphoria in Russia, a very powerful rally around the flag effect.
In our hearts, we know that Crimea has always been and always will remain an inalienable part of Russia.
In many ways, that speech was scary to a lot of people at the time, but it will look and feel now like the halcyon days compared to the anger of the speeches that he's given in the war that he's launched in Ukraine. He has a very strong demand for control. He seems to genuinely believe that Russia will disintegrate if there is not a very strong state that is able to dominate, if not monopolize, most political, economic, and indeed social activity within the country.
So a little look at Putin. I don't know if I agree with everything the guy said, but I don't show you things just because I agree with all of it. I show you things that I don't necessarily agree with, but we show them so that you have the ideas and you can think for yourself and you decide what how things impact you. It is it's a Saturday afternoon. It is sunshiny and freezing here in my neck of the woods. I hope it's a blessed day where you are. As long as nothing happens major, I won't be back on tonight. I will be on tomorrow. We're going to have a special church service tomorrow. We're going to be, and it's by request. And I'm sure a lot of you are not going to be interested in that. All you want's the news, and that's okay. That's why I'm doing it on a Sunday, separate from the Sunday news reports. So look for that tomorrow. Not sure what time that's going to be, but sometime tomorrow morning we're going to have a little bit of a church episode. And by that I mean we're going to be studying. We're going to study what's going on in the world now and the book of Revelation in the New Testament of the Holy Bible. So that'll be tomorrow, as well as news reports coming out tomorrow too. So a special edition, if you will. I've done a couple of special editions on sports. This one is going to be a special edition on the possible spiritual ramifications of what's going on in the world. So thank you for watching. As always, I greatly appreciate it. And again, as long as nothing major happens, I will not be back on today. I will be on tomorrow sometime, probably around noon, with our spiritual look at things. And then we'll have Sunday report, keeping you up to date on what's going on in the news. This is the American Dufus channel. My name is Barry Welsh. I'm your host. Thank you for watching. And it's a dark world. Do try to be a light. I wish you nothing but blessings. I wish everyone watching peace. And namaste, shalom, salam, blessings. peace, sincere peace. But just because we love peace doesn't mean we may not have to fight in order to have it. Just because we love freedom does not mean we may not have to fight in order to keep it. But for the moment, have a blessed Saturday. Have a blessed Saturday. We'll be back soon. This is the American Dufus channel. This is News Done Differently.